my stomach, feeling a bubbly thrill creeping up to my chest despite my fear at being in a place that was kept for visitors, and mostly forbidden to me. I had stolen in when everyone was busy. Now I could explore. I held my breath as long as I could, then let it out in a great gust. If I did it 3 times, then my mother would come. I went around the room, holding out my arms, stretching my fat child's fingers to touch each object. I stroked everything a little in turn, touching the precious things, as I was never allowed to do when there were grown-ups around. It was different from the nursery, where everything was brown and wooden and could not break. Here there was a great black cabinet, painted with sea gods and mermaids, topped by 2 knobbly silver candlesticks with burned-down wicks, a glossy table with stout, spiraled legs, and in the corner, resting on a stand, my mother's mandalore, with the fat face of a cherub carved into its neck. The tale of the mandalore was one of my favourites. I made mother tell it to me at bedtime. Then she would whisper in her story voice of how it had been carved from the wood of a little pear tree by one Signor Testore, a gentleman from Venice with flowing black hair and shining eyes like conkers. It was given to her by my father as a present on their wedding day, and she would treasure it for evermore. The sunlight from the window threw bright oblongs onto the floor. I went over to the shapes and jumped onto them with a ho, hoping I might be transported to a faraway land, as in the stories told to me by Good Soul, my nurse, who was a wise woman. But that must not be spoken of in company, lest somebody hear, and put her in the pond. I jumped in and out of the squares, liking the way my body turned from light to dark as I moved. Singing a song about fairies, I hopped up and down on the spot, and then stood stock still in an oblong and stretched out my palms, watching the light make them golden. I stayed there, breathing in and out, watching the dust rise up, then lay down in the sun, as I had seen our big dog Muff do, and kicked up my arms and legs in a star shape. I was hot and bright all over. "Mother," I called, sliding my legs open and together on the floor, the swishing of the skirts of my gown as I kicked. "I am here, Mother. Oh, Mother, won't you come to me? Here I am in the parlour, Mother," I sang. I held my body still for a moment and waited. "Mother!" I screamed it as loudly as I dared, then caught my breath, frightened at my own naughtiness. I listened for the squeak of the stairs, the tip-tapping of running, angry feet. The clock chimed the hour in the hall, but nobody came. I lay in the light shape with my eyes closed. The sunlight was under my eyelids. There were purple spots and green swirls. I sat myself up and gazed out of the window. The sky was pale blue, peppered with wisps of white. My father liked his turnips peppered, and it made my mother sneeze. Children did not like pepper, as a rule, father said. I should have liked to go and play outside. It had rained in the night, but now there was only the whistly wind, and the sun looked as if it might be hot. There were birds' nests, and the drays of squirrels in the gnarled old oak, and I could make daisy chains with Good Soul and wear them as necklaces. We had a squat little crab-apple tree with low branches that could be climbed, if somebody helped, and stood by in case you fell. The door creaked, and father's wolfhound trotted in, making a noise in her throat when she saw me on the floor. "Come now, Muffy," I said, and threw out my arm as I had seen my father do. She came over with a solemn face, and lapped at my nose and the salty place behind my ear. I tipped backwards, giggling, and Muff barked joyfully and began to worry at my shoe. I lay back in the oblong, laughing and tugging my foot away, while she nipped at my shoe leather, letting out little excited yips between each bite. "Oh, Muff," I said, "you are a very naughty girl." The dog had got my shoe off, and was joyfully eating it in a corner when mother came in with a rustling of skirts, a stiff look about her face. I wiggled my stocking toes and waved at her from my place on the floor. She might lie down in the bright square too, if she knew how warm it was. "Ursula, you naughty child," she cried, seizing my arm and dragging me upwards and giving me a few sharp pinches. She set about brushing the dust from my back and rubbing it out of my hair.